Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to episode number 34 at the Warehouse Underground podcast, Real Talk, for warehouse, DC, and FC professionals of all levels around the globe. I'm Ben, the host of the show, and let me just say, there is one piece of equipment in your warehouse or distribution center that, for my money, is the most important one and has the best ROI, all things considered, and that is the pallet. Now, I think I did some research one time and saw that there was over 1 billion pallets on planet Earth. Now, I don't know if I've been able to challenge that. I don't know if that's true, but allegedly there's 1 billion pallets on planet Earth. And in your warehouse, it's absolutely critical. If you don't believe me, run a warehouse that runs out of pallets and see how hairy it gets very fast. So if you're an ops leader out there, you should know a little bit about how pallets work, specifically the pallet industry. How do they acquire their pallets? How do they make them? How do they provide service? All those questions, you should know that as an ops leader. And my guest on the show today can help you with that. His name's Stephen Bartalini. He's the National Sales Director at PalletTrader. Lower pallet costs, simplify supply, gain visibility, relationships over transactions, and results over noise. So I'm really excited to talk to him today about PalletTrader and how the pallet industry works, because it's very critical, like I said, to operations. You don't want to run out. So with that, I will bring him on the stage right now. Stephen, my friend, thank you very much for joining the Warehouse Underground podcast today. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Ben. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've run in sort of the same circle. So I've seen you on some other shows that are in the supply chain space, and I follow you on LinkedIn like I do a lot of my guests, and so you've always putting out some great content there. So I'm really happy that I finally get a chance to speak with you in person. I should say over virtual, because in person we found out we live about 10 minutes away from each other. So
Yeah,
it's I probably will see you in person at some point in the near future. So thank you again for coming on the show.
my pleasure. I mean, I appreciate you having me on.
No worries. So before we get too much into the podcast, and I teased it a little bit in the intro. So I know you've been in the supply chain for a while now. Can you just tell people about your background, how PalletTrader came to be, and what it's all about?
Yeah, man. Like a lot of people in supply chain, I started in freight brokerage back probably about 15 years ago now, and just built on a sales career and really got into operations and worked with some of started out as a cradle to grave broker with an agent-based system, and then got recruited into one of the large brokerages that a lot of people know, and just cut my teeth there, and just a lot of experience in operations, and you're just seeing, just kind of how that developed, led me into an opportunity with PalletTrader, just to was looking for something that was a little bit more tech focused, something that was sustainable to the industry. And obviously, like, pallets are historically, just the backbone of the supply chain. And when I saw what John Vaccaro had built at PalletTrader, it really seemed interesting to me to have a kind of a hand in that without getting too far away from what I had already been familiar with. But really, I saw, that he had a vision for a problem that needed to be solved, and it was something that I was interested in, and really staying and kind of taking that next step forward in my career. And really his vision for the company came from 40 years of pallet experience, for one, but overall in transportation and warehousing and co-packing and so on. But he saw, during the COVID timeframe, where pallets became really difficult to get. And
Yeah.
I just felt like it was such a mess, and people were scrambling. I mean, to the point where, signs on the side of the road and all that stuff. And he had a vision for making it accessible digitally, which didn't exist at that point. So he really, like a lot of great business ideas. It came from, drew up on the back of a napkin and handed it to his VP of tech and was like, this is what I'm looking for. And she put it to life, with her, production team. And it's really started her as a marketplace, to just buy and sell pallets, like post the need, post your inventory, come together. Really, it's pretty simple in the sense of what it is, but it just didn't exist at that point. And when I first got interested in the company, that's it. It seemed pretty simple, but it just seemed like, why doesn't this exist today? And so when I first, jumped on board initially, the thought was, focus on the marketplace and sell that kind of like SaaS type of approach. And what we found quickly is that everybody loves the way it works. Not everybody has the time to do it. And so we developed a more of a managed service that focused on using the tool of the marketplace along with the network that we had, and really providing that whole full spectrum of services for pallets. So really, I mean, we've evolved quite a bit since the when we were launched in 2022, mid 2022 when it first came out. But yeah, it's been a heck of a ride to this point, and I really evolved into a full suite of pallet management services.
Yeah. Now I remember that time vividly during COVID-19. And people want to talk about toilet paper and you can't get toilet paper, but in this industry, pallets was like toilet paper times 2 or times 3. I mean, we were scrounging around for them. So that definitely brought back some memories there. So
Yeah.
now, Stephen, let me ask you this question, just because I've heard this general sentiment before. Call it from new people that are getting into the industry and warehousing or distribution, and that is, like, pallets are, like I said in the intro, a huge part of every operation. If you don't believe me, like, run out. I mean, things get rough fast, but oftentimes pallets are just sort of, dare I say, overlooked or taken for granted or what have you. So, I mean, you've been in this industry for a while. Have you seen that? I mean, do you think that that is the general sentiment from some ops leaders out there when it comes to pallets? And why do you think that might be?
Absolutely. It's funny. It's like pallets are invisible when they work, but they're catastrophic when they don't.
Oh, yeah.
And especially being in sales, when you're reaching out to potential clients, and you got to have a problem that they need to solve, right? And it's pallets tend to be the lowest on the totem pole in terms of priorities, because they think, okay, well, you buy them, you have them, you're good. But it's like you said, you run out and you're in a real problem at that point. Historically, they've been treated like a commodity or an office supply in some cases. I mean, some of these corporations, they loop in pallets with, like you said, toilet paper and paper towels and things like that. Some of the indirect procurement teams, that's what they buy them from that standpoint. But it's the approach tends to be, just don't run out. Like that tends to be the dominant mindset. But when you have margin pressure and labor constraints and just things of that, when you start looking at, like, a lot of over the last couple of years, especially, it's like, how can we cut costs? Well, let's look at every single procurement item that we have and try to look at it from that standpoint. So it's pretty common, to it's become more of an issue, I should say, in the sense that there are a lot more companies that are interested in knowing, like, how can we find ways to cut costs with pallets, or how can we recapture revenue by selling off excess pallets that we have,
True. Good point.
building up, in facilities. So this is where I was mentioning the evolution of the company, is it's moved into that. It's not just how do we buy it for less, but how do we sell off what we have, or even, a big thing right now, especially, is how do we maintain the quality that we need to satisfy the clients that we're selling into. So, like, when you think of the big box retailers, the big distribution companies, they've looked at pallets and created a revenue stream from finding and rejecting shippers when they show up. So, I mean, there's heightened awareness of what the quality of a pallet looks like. That tends to
Yeah.
lead to overspending. That tends to lead to when I say overspending, I mean, like sometimes like some clients, they're just paying for a new pallet, or they're pushed into the rental pool, which can get out of hand if you don't have the ability to manage it properly. So it's really funny because I never thought about it really. Before I came into this, I really didn't think about it until I had some claims, until I had some trucks that were rejected, from their appointments when they go into these facilities. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm getting a call as a broker from a driver to say, hey, my whole load just got rejected here. And because my pallets aren't meeting the
Yeah.
requirement for the receiving location. And that's not even, how do you check that? Like as a driver, you go through them and the splinters and all that sort of stuff that's popping or even like damaging some product.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, now let me ask you this, because you've got all different types of customers. I mean, there's big warehouses, small warehouses, distribution centers, fulfillment centers, and everything in between. So you've got all these different players out there that may be your customers. But when people come to you as a potential supplier, what are the different things that they are looking for out of you? I mean, is there a way to rank prioritize that? I mean, I know cost is always a factor, but is it
Yeah.
cost? Is it service? Is it availability, quality of the pallets? I mean, what is the most common thing priority wise that a customer wants out of a good pallet supplier like a pallet trader?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything you mentioned, of course, is important, and people typically go to cost first. But really, we're looking at multi-location operations. We're looking at visibility. Really tends to be a big focus for us because we have software, we have an order management process, a portal that allows companies to really pull together all of their locations into one and be able to get visibility of what they're spending, what they're using, what they're selling off, what from a sustainability standpoint, what type of carbon footprint are they offsetting at that point? Like all of these things come into play, and we do a good job of consolidating everything that they're looking for into one easy to use location.
Yeah.
And then of course, operationally behind the scenes, we have our team is working in every aspect of that. So when you say like the main thing, it really depends on the company itself of what they're trying to accomplish. You know, a lot of procurement teams out there, they love to run the RFP. They love to find out and benchmark their pricing, and that's important. But what we find when that door opens is, they're very fragmented in their approach. And so a lot of these facilities, you might have, multi-billion dollar operations, but every individual location is making its own decisions when it comes to pallets. And so what we've been able to do is standardize that process across the entire network in a way that allows them to have full visibility to it, maintaining the quality, never disrupting the supply, and having kind of like that one hand to shake, one throat to choke in some
Yep.
cases. So that's important, to a lot of them. And candidly, anybody can pick up the phone, go to Google, find a pallet supplier, get a price, get it delivered, and so on. But when that doesn't go the way it's supposed to, what do you do at that point? And
Yep.
organizations across the industry are really spread thin today in the sense that they don't have time or energy or resources to really focus on maintaining that supply. So what happens at that point? Like their choice, it's either they do it themselves or they have somebody else do it for them. But even when they have somebody else do it for them, there aren't many options out there for a business that can manage the entire thing with the network that we do, which is, 800 plus suppliers across the US and Canada today, and they don't have the visibility that they can tie that to. So it becomes kind of, how do you check all the boxes when you're
Yeah.
from a procurement, we're kind of bridging that gap between procurement and operations, because we have the experience from an operational standpoint and we have the experience from a procurement standpoint. And so the biggest challenge that you see within a lot of these mid-level enterprise level clients is bridging between, procurement's got a great idea, operations doesn't want anything changed. Operations says we don't care how much it costs. Procurement's being forced to find savings. So it's like, how do you find that in the middle there? And I think we do a really good job of playing in that space.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, when I got into this industry, the price of pallets was relatively manageable. I mean, 4.50, $5, that type range. And so you're right, the general sentiment was just don't run out. I mean, it's pallets, it's supply, but it's just like everything in the supply chain and distribution, it's always on a floating scale, and
Mm-hmm.
things are dynamic. Things can change. The price of them can go up. Things can change in your operation. And so maybe back in the day, it was not that big of a deal, cost of doing business. That changes over time. And so I think one of the things that I found sometimes with this type thing, and sometimes freight is a little bit this way too, like logistics is always changing. I mean, the cost of it's always changing unless you have somebody in your organization that has their finger on the pulse of that all the time. They may not be aware that the market shifted and now they're no longer getting the best pricing that they could get because they just had it there. And so that's where I think, I know PalletTrader really prides itself on becoming a partner with their customer and developing trust and relationship, and something that, hey, we really don't want them worrying about pallets. We're going to kind of make sure that they know that, yes, we're always giving them the best deal, the best offer, they're getting the best service from them. And so is that, I mean, is that where PalletTrader's at? Because I think that part of doing business is very valuable to a warehouse manager or ops leader who's got their plate full with all sorts of things that they're managing. So if they've got their that they know and they feel confident that, hey, my pallet partner is updating me and I know I'm getting the best price with them, versus like, no, I've always got to be checking. I always got to be checking behind their back and everything. They're trying to. So for me, I'm not sure if that's how PalletTrader is trying to position itself, but if it is, I think that is a very good thing. And at least that's how it comes off and what I've heard and the website and the whole thing. And so is that truth? I mean, am I way out of line, or is that where you guys are at?
No, I'd say you're pretty spot on. I mean, like you mentioned, it's the goal is to remove anxiety from
Yeah,
pallets,
yeah.
right? And so like we have a saying that's, we worry about pallets so you don't have to. And so
Love that.
everything kind of leads with being transparent around pricing and clear accountability in terms of operating. So the goal for me, whenever I choose a client to work with, it's really like, we have to align on what expectations are, what requirements are, what's most important to the business, because ultimately every one of our clients is serving a customer. And so
Yep.
in order for them to serve the customer effectively, their product has to be represented in the best light possible. And that doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money to do that. And in some cases, a lot of them believe that to be the case. And so for us, I look at it and say, when we go into a situation, we have to do like a full analysis of what they're trying to accomplish. And in terms of it, you never want to spend more for a pallet than you have to. But the reality is that the cost of the pallet is not necessarily reduced to the per pallet price. It's the total cost of ownership. And a lot of that cost comes into logistically lining it up properly, on time delivery, having enough supply, the right ideal pallet to hold the product to get to the end user safely and effectively. All those things come into play. And so when we look at it, it's like, how could we make this pallet better for the customer? If all they need is a end of life cycle, couple time use, B grade, pallet, just to hold it enough to get it to the next spot where it's going to be chucked after that, we can provide. And I think having such a robust network that we do, our focus can really be on finding the right supplier, manufacturer, mill, recycler, whoever it is, for the client at the time. And so in some cases, it's very easy to go in and say, here's the cheapest option for you. Like, that's the easy button. Like, you can always try to undercut pricing and everything, but we try to look at it holistically, across the entire operation and say, what's the ideal pallet for what you need? And then we take into the focus, let's measure the market in your area and see where can we find the best possible deal for that. And it's not always just like at the beginning, kind of set it and forget it. It's an ongoing relationship where we're doing that legwork for you, where we're measuring out there, like, what does the market look like? This last year, how many times did you hear the word tariff? Right? I mean, it's like, there's a tariff on
Thousands.
there's a tariff on all imports. There's a tariff, and even like people forget that steel is fasteners that are using. There's 84 nails in a 48 by 40 pallet. I mean, that's a lot, right? And so, like, when you consider lumber, you consider steel, you consider what it does to not just the new pallet market, but the secondary market. That's all those things come into play. So we watch this extremely closely. And so in doing that, our operations team, I give all the credit to them. Like, we have our pricing and supplier relations manager. She ran a pallet facility for 5 years. So it's like, she knows the cost of what it takes to make these things happen and to store and to safely, recycle and all these the things that come into play. So, I mean, for us, it's, cost is really important, but knowing where the cost comes from determines what the total cost of ownership is going to be. So I think it's just, it's looking at it from that standpoint, understanding how these pallets are going to be used, what's going to happen to them at the end, and how do we recapture some revenue for the client, like, throughout the end of the life cycle. So,
Yeah, and I think that's very valuable because one of the things in the ops world that every ops manager wants to know, at least an outbound ops manager, is what's the forecast? Because that's how they're planning their labor, that's how they're planning their equipment, and the farther off the sales team gets from the forecast, the harder and harder it gets to correct that with operations. And so I've always sort of said that to people, like, well, your pallet supplier is going through the same thing. You're not their only customer. They may have other customers that they are working with, and they all have different needs. And I think, Stephen, there's a lot of volatility, or there can be a lot of volatility. And so, kind of, who are your bread and butter customers? I mean, it could be anybody under the sun, but who are the bread and butter? And then how are you able to sort of handle some of that volatility of all these different order, demand, and everything in order to meet? Because that's a risk sometimes. I think if you get in with a pallet provider who is not up to speed, they're not ready for that. They don't have the experience with that. They don't have if they get too big, they're going to fall very, very fast. And so scaling up with the volatility, I think, is very critical piece. And how's kind of PalletTrader able to do that with its main core customer base?
yeah, I mean, I think it starts with having a dynamic team that has a lot of experience in every aspect of the supply chain industry. So internally, I think that we've dealt with a lot that's out there. And when you have experience in warehousing and transportation and trucking and co-packing and you know you know all that. I mean, that all comes into play, but our core customers are food and beverage, CPG, retail. That's kind of like from a production standpoint. And then you have the 3PLs, the distribution centers, co-packers that are solving or I should say satisfying a number of different customers. So we tend to focus on those particular industries. And then of course you have construction, you have pharma, you have, a mix in there as well. So the one thing, like, I will say, like, for us, that might be a little bit different than most is, you always think of a wood pallet as a pallet. And frankly, we're agnostic to pallets. So to us, to us, it's what are the supplier base? What can they do? So is it plastic? Is there composite? Is there wood? Is
Yeah.
it recycled? Is it, block pallets? Are they stringer pallets? I mean, all of those things that we see, they all pop up. And important for us to stay, fluid in that sense. And it allows us to help clients figure out what is ideal for their business. Because for somebody that's going to keep their pallets within a closed loop system, and it's, they're protecting product, or they're going to save and reuse these. I mean, we want to look at an alternative material other than just your standard recycled pallet. What's going to be best for the business? And so because a lot of our clients, they're all interested in finding ways, to do things more effectively and more efficiently. So in that sense, it means maybe going away from a wood pallet, or it means, we have our own closed loop environment that's an alternative to the rental pool that eliminates the excessive fees that they might be dealing with. And so for us, like our core customers, they're just as innovative in their thought process as we are. And I think a lot of it comes down to is how do they fit in our approach, and
Yeah.
candidly, the client that just wants the cheapest possible pallet in all costs, it all comes like, what's my per pallet price? And, there's a place for them, but I mean, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily our ideal client. It's more like the person or the client that looks at everything as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of forecasting and volatility and things like that, that's a real thing that's ongoing. So for us, it's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is capturing data for our clients, because believe it or not, even these massive companies that are out there, they don't know how many pallets they buy. They don't know how much they spend. It's a line item. And to them, it's when we're going to them and trying to do a full analysis on their business, you'd be surprised like how much time it takes them just to pull together how many pallets they bought. And then beyond that, it's not how many pallets they bought, it's what type of pallets they bought. I mean, consolidating SKUs is a huge part of our business. You'd be surprised. Like there are some of these 3PLs out there that I've worked with that they had 60 some odd SKUs, and when you look through all of their data, a lot of them, it's like 48 by 40 B, 48 by 41, 48 times 40, 40, the number, but the written letter, like they come out and you see them and it's like, man, like you're all over the place with this. And so
Yep.
it's just what's easiest for that person at the local level to put into the system and make the request. But in the meantime, it's all of their data is so fragmented. So for us, it's, you look at something like that, and that's where a lot of the volatility comes from, because they're not accurately tracking it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that firsthand. I've seen that firsthand. And sometimes you get, it's cool for a while, and then a company will get a new CFO. A new CFO will come in, and then he or she wants to know everything. And then the warehouse manager is saying, I don't know. I don't know how much we buy. I don't know. And so that can change rapidly. So, but what about delivery time though, Stephen? I mean, in the distribution world, that has taken a drastic change over the years. Now
Mhm.
sites are talking about 1 hour delivery. I mean, just like crazy type things. But has that shifted for you, or are in general, like your customers doing a pretty decent job ordering ahead and everything? Or are they calling you saying, sorry, I messed up. We need delivery now. This is urgent type thing. So what are you seeing most of? Are they letting you know ahead of time and giving you a realistic, or are they expecting like next day delivery and that type thing?
In some cases, there is, like I just had a client last week that said, sometimes we need heat treated pallets within a couple hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's, there can be some planning
That's
challenges that they're experiencing.
man.
And so I think what's most important there is understanding what our supplier base is capable of and making sure that we're matching them with these locations. And that comes back to their whole transparency piece, right? So like with our portal and our order management system, I think one of the things that's pretty interesting about what you're talking about is how many pallets we need in a few hours. A lot of the times It's how do we cancel a delivery so that they don't get on our
Mm.
site? That's pretty common, especially in some of those congested areas of the country where they don't have the space. They don't necessarily, they may have overestimated how many pallets they need. Their warehouse
Yep.
might have gotten tight because now they're holding a little bit more inventory when imports are starting to slow up or speed down or speed up. So like in some cases with that, we've made it very easy to cancel a shipment. And one of the things I think that's really important for us is to be able to manage the supplier expectations as well as the client expectations, and us to kind of middle that relationship there. We can act pretty swiftly. The goal ultimately is to have a steady stream to where there isn't a panic button, but the panic button is a real thing, and you have to be able to adapt to that. And so typically you're looking at like a 48-hour window for when they want pallets delivered. But I mean, it can change in a moment, and it's, sometimes we have an audit all of a sudden come in,
Yep.
like a company like says, oh, we got an audit, we got to clear out all of our inventory that we have for pallets, and like the pallet sell-off type of thing. And, this comes back to like the logistics aspect of the business is being able to, pivot quickly to get a trailer on site to load up and get them out of the site, to get them off of the location. It's like some of these companies, we might have 6, 8, 10 truckloads of pallets that are on site, drop trailer type of situation. We might have some empty trailers that are waiting over there. And I think like just being able to kind of click a link, hit the
Yep.
the deliver the pickup button in our system to say like, I need this thing picked up, and then having a dedicated account team for each client that they can lean on in times of need is important. And I think part of the challenge is, you want to bring a lot of these clients and suppliers forward to using the portal and being active in that. But some of them, it's a text, it's a phone call, it's an email.
Yep.
And so I think like meeting them where they are is one of the things that we do really well. We're going to put everything in our system. We're going to capture all the data, but telling of, somebody that's been in the industry for 37 years and he's operated strictly by, making a phone call, we're going to accommodate that guy, and
Yeah.
so that's a real thing too. So, I mean, it's like delivery times, it's, I think it's more being able to respond and to
Mhm.
proactively suggest what's required, in the coming weeks. And I think we do a good job of forecasting for them, especially after we get into the mix. Like one of the things we have one of our clients that they produce, they produce bourbon at a high level. And for them, it's their pallets are big, they're heavy, they're expensive. They're going to be on the shelf. They're going to be racked for 10 years. Right.
Yeah.
And so like in the case with them, we hold their inventory for them across multiple suppliers. And so they don't have a whole lot of room necessarily in the distillery. And so for them, I can order 4 or 5 truckloads for the next couple of weeks, but then all of a sudden be told like we got to stop production for some reason, and they got to stop the delivery. So for them,
Yeah.
being convenient to them is to be able to just literally click cancel, and then it stops. And that's a 24-hour
Yep.
notice for us. And
Yeah,
so,
I think that flexibility piece, I think, is what all people value. I mean, customers value that. I know for me, in my experience with pallet providers, I'm not going to come to you all the time with short notice type things. If I am, I don't expect you to be able to accommodate that and run, but there is some value in an every now and then, hey, we just have to make it happen. I mean,
yep,
it's warehousing, it's supply chain, and it's good to have people that are like, yep, every now and then we're ready to just jump in and make it happen on a short notice. We don't want to run the
yeah,
whole year that way, but there is a lot of that value because that's what a warehouse manager is having to go through and deal with. And so if they feel like that pallet provider is right there in that arena with them, I think they that offers a lot of value. So now I think you've hinted at this a little bit, but where do you get them? I mean, are you building them? I mean, do you build them from scratch? Do you acquire them from different people or some other means? I mean, how do you generate your stock of pallets that then go to your end state customers?
yeah. So we having 800 plus vendor partners around the US and Canada that's grown substantially. It went from a couple hundred a few years ago to just massively growing, thanks to our team internally and doing that. But really it's understanding like what all their capabilities are and getting to know each supplier at face level, on site, that sort of thing. And so like you look at, for one, like we do house physical inventory of pallets around, and we do that in the sense of a lot of the clients that are out there, they're not buying pallets, they're selling pallets. They have excess inventory, whatever it may be. And so we have a certain approach toward that, to where, we'll sell them off for them and find a partner for them, but we'll also buy them too, in the sense of keeping them at certain, partner facilities. And in doing so, that allows us to be a little bit more flexible in terms of providing locally, at different levels what they need. And when we look at everything as a multiple supplier approach. So we're never going to put ourselves in a position to where we're relying upon one particular supplier. Just like any business is going to look at it the same way. Like, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, right? You don't want to just have the only source. And so we'll have a backup plan for a backup plan. We'll have primary, we'll have secondary, we'll have tertiary suppliers that are available based upon the volume that these clients have and need. And so for us, it's and we're working with mills. It's not just one other thing I would mention too is, it's like, there are some major pallet suppliers across the country, right? And everybody knows who they are. I mean, there's a lot of the bigger ones, but like, there's hundreds and hundreds of small to medium sized businesses out there that have been thriving in their own space for 20, 30 years. And so for us, the majority of our supplier base is built on that small to medium sized business that they do something really special. And they necessarily have the ability really to connect on a larger level, or even open the door at some of these massive companies that are out there that are buying volume. And so for us, like, I want to be able to collect a group of them that do something well and understand what their needs are, and then get them in the door at some of these larger corporations, these enterprise level businesses, to where they can be a supplier for them as well, but working through us. And we, it's not just about, back up. It's more what fits, whatever fits is what we want to find. Right. So that's really what it comes down to for us. So even though, like, you're not going to see a PalletTrader mill where you're going to go out there and see us, running automation, and making 20,000 pallets a week. That's not our thing, but we're going to find the people that do, and then we partner with them and have a great relationship in that sense. And it's, kind of playing the best of both worlds there.
Yeah. And and I don't think your customers expect that, right? Like, they're not expecting it to come from a mill. They just want somebody that knows them, that knows the pallet business, and can really connect the two. And I think that's where you come in. So I love that. I mean, I think that's awesome. I love what PalletTrader's doing, and making waves in the market, and more people are becoming aware. It's really becoming a good partner out there for people. So, well, where can people find out more about you? Like I said, I know you're on LinkedIn, PalletTrader is out there, but where can people find out more about you and PalletTrader, and what do you guys have cooking up for 2026?
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn. I'm always looking to connect with good people, and talk pallets. I mean, that's always a good spot for me. I'm very active on the platform there, and so that's a good way to reach me. Also, and then PalletTrader.com. So it's PalletTrader.com. So it's that's our website. And there's the self-serve marketplace, and then there's the managed service to things, and we can help kind of guide, which is the best way to approach for your business. Then of course you'll see us in the conference and trade show circuit. We're out there a lot. We're going to be at Manifest coming up in Vegas, and then we'll be at Pack Expo East, which is in Philadelphia, both in mid-February. You'll see us at I'm trying to think what they're right on the top of my mind right now, but like we're pretty active in
all of the above, everyone.
It was a point. I think we went to like 34 of them between 2023 and beginning of 2024. So just we kind of narrowed it down a little bit more.
You're like a trade show pro now. You got the lanyards from all the different places, and this is,
my lanyard looked like New Orleans beads after Mardi Gras.
This is a kids-friendly show, Steven. It's a kids-friendly show. Cool, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate talking with you and learning more about PalletTrader as an ops guy and my former life and current life. I know how critical and important pallets and relationship with a pallet supplier is. And so that's why I really like what PalletTrader is doing and growing into and becoming. So good on you, man. I really appreciate it. And, like I say, I'm sure I will see you. Next time I start driving around town, I'm going to be looking for a bearded guy with a PalletTrader hat on in cars as I pass them. It's probably going to be you. So
yeah, for sure. Love to connect with you in person, and I appreciate you. I'm honored to be on the show with you, and it's good. It's good stuff that you're doing. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Steven. Take care, my friend. I'll see you next time.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Bye-bye. All right, that concludes today's show. Thanks for Steven for coming on the show again. PalletTrader. I really liked learning about them. I would check out their website. If you're a warehouse manager, ops manager, and you want to have a good relationship with a pallet supplier, PalletTrader may be the one for you. So thanks again for coming on the show, Steven. I appreciate it. As the Warehouse Underground goes, like I always say, please sign up for the community. The community is growing. We have over 260 people that are a part of that. Inside the community is message boards. We're doing some live shows. Be on the lookout for some new live shows that we're going to do in the first week of February for people that are working in fulfillment centers. I have a couple of special guests that will be a part of that. And so if you are in that arena in FCs, you'll want to look out for that show. Also, check out the Tiger Team show. It's a show I do with my co-host, Jordan. It's all about life in warehouses and fulfillment centers and distribution centers, but with a slant of wit, humor, and sarcasm. So if you work in that world and you want some lighthearted humor and some comic relief, check that show out. I think you will get it right away, exactly what we were talking about. So as this podcast goes, thank you again. I will see you guys next time for episode number 35. Thank you. God bless.